Freedom is a hell of a drug, and Harriet Tubman couldn't get enough. A Harriet Tubman deep dive and decode. Episode 1, Freedom, Courage, and Leadership. Welcome. Decode her story to encode yours. This is my Her Story and Miss Story docu-series. We're going to examine these mythological characters like Harriet and understand how they did what they did so that we can do it ourselves in our lives and make history more relevant. This is her message to you. Let's do this. Freedom, the central theme that she's known for, central pillar. Let's begin with one of her quotes. I had reasoned this out in my mind. There was one of two things I had a right to, liberty or death. If I could not have one, I would have the other. Harriet Tubman. All right, let's look at reasoned. Defined as underpinned by logic or good sense. All right, so she thought about these things. She didn't take someone's word for it. She consulted herself, her own mind. And in that reasoning, she also found that she had a right. She had rights, birthright. Okay. Now, the right of the times, the RITE of the times said, well, you're enslaved because your mama was enslaved. Okay. But she understood her birthrights, RIGHT. She understood that despite these chains or shackles, I'm free. She knew she was worthy to be free. She didn't triangulate outside of herself. She didn't seek outside counsel. She sought a higher power. She sought her higher self. Again, she didn't triangulate her worth or freedom based on what she saw and what someone said. She knew inside of herself that there was something else for her, and she went for it. She went straight to it. She says, freedom is over there, so I'm going over there. Okay, mama, you stayed, daddy, you stayed, but I'm going there. Okay, I am not permanently attached. I am able to move about. Boom! You are now free to move about the cabin. Okay, back to the quote. I had reasoned this out in my mind, okay? That mind, she had a place where ain't nobody worried, okay? She wasn't worried about these chains. Oh, the chains? Oh, it's just jewelry. She knew the truth, and the truth set her free. She was free. She was free to fly away. Courage. All right, what gave her the courage? Let's define it. Mental or moral strength to venture, persevere, and withstand danger, fear, or difficulty. All right, she got it from her mama and her daddy. She had skills. She knew that to be free, she had to run out there into those woods and those forests. Her mother was an herbologist. She learned that from her. And her father was a forester. Harriet learned that from him. So she knew her way about the woods. She understood the terrain. She knew Mother Nature. She knew Mother Nature's medicine cabinet through the herbology. She witnessed her mom stand up to the owner, Brody. And that gave Harriet courage, I'm sure. And also couple that with the fact that they were very, very close. She emulated her mom, like mother, like daughter. Also, watching her mom boss up to the boss, that helped Harriet become the boss, Miss Ross. She was able to stand up to Brodus and face Brodus in a certain way. And we get into that later, but she was able to make her own money. This was an enterprising, learned woman with strategies and skill. I love it. And with her being able to go out and make money, she was able to get off the plantation and get some of that sweet smell of freedom perfume on her. She worked with free people. There were quite a bit of free people at that time. About half the blacks in Maryland were free. And so, but Harriet wasn't, so hey. So she went out there. She met John Tubman. He was the high value man of the day because he was a free man. That was the real value, because if you weren't free, then what else? What did you have? Harriet's got a man at home. So she tried it, and true to the Shantae song, he was whatever. We'll get into that later in the series. He was just a great value. As then again, really, a lot of it just all looks alike in either of one of those so-called types. So whatever. When you're busy being free and sovereign, you don't have time to worry about that. Another quote. When I found I had crossed the line, I looked at my hands to see if I was the same person. There was such a glory over everything. The sun came like gold through trees and over the fields, and I felt like I was in heaven. Woo! Bars, Harriet. She was so poetic. Like her other quote was like less poetic, but just still so astute. And it's like you knew you were dealing with a smart person. All right, so the scriptures, Psalms 23:4. All right, even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. All right, Harriet faced down the greatest shadow of death and evil, particularly of her time. Okay, and despite all that, the evidence and all that she could see that said, girl, you're a slave, you're always going to be a slave, your daddy a slave, your mama a slave, she could still see around that. Courage. Now, what did she do with that courage? So, leadership is action, okay? So, how did the boss, Miss Ross, show action? How did this go down? Let's define it first. The action of leading a group of people or an organization. She split away from mom, dad, everybody she knew, at just everything. And she went and found it on her own. And then she came back and showed them the way. Said, all right, I got it. Let's go. And I like to call that her family and friends plan. The Harriet T. Mobile family and friends plan. They were certainly mobile. Okay, and you had to sign a contract with her, a covenant with her to go with her to freedom. According, to the National Park Service in my research, she didn't just go all over the South like we think of, like Santa Claus, instead of dropping off toys. On those 13 trips she took on her own, it was for family and friends. She didn't go running all over the South. Now, we know the stories of Harriet pulling a pistol on those who threatened or got scared or said they wanted to turn back because they would get everybody in trouble. So that means she was pulling guns on people she loved and cared about. Ooh, I never thought about it like that. All right. Per my research, I would see Harriet's name tagged in things that just did not match her. It's not the same energy for real. Following Harriet Tubman, literally back then or figuratively now, just following her example, she will lead you to liberty, okay? She is a symbol of liberty. She's a torchbearer, a beacon for liberty. All right, so on to another modern reference, the Alabama Brawl of 2023. Minister Jew, the imagination guru, did a really good breakdown of that. But what got me was the boat Harriet 2. That's going to be a juicy little tidbit, fun to reveal further in the series. All right, for the leadership part, we're also going to use 23rd Psalm, 4th verse. For you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. The rod and the staff are tools for protection and leadership. That puts a different spin on spare the rod, spoil your child. All right, so butt bundles, brows, butterfly lashes, and boyfriends. Those are the things that I used to really take precedence in my life. I triangulated my worthiness to all of those things. I did not just have that birthright idea of myself as worthy to be free. I was bound to these things. I was enslaved. Frankly, I'm still vain, but it's really about my own gaze. I had to find the courage to not worry about some sort of Instagram aesthetics or what's out there. I'm really just starting to focus on me. What's better for my mind, body, spirit, sexuality, finances, and emotions. I get that list from Pastor P. And and I'm focusing on my soul mission. And as a spirit being, I get that from Professor Melanie. The sovereignty, Dr. P, KSC, that type of Dr. Portia are helping me do better in my life. And also, yeah, visualizations I'm learning from Jew and Ampu. I want to come back and just get into decoding that story so we can encode ours, so we could tell a new story if our lives isn't telling the story, or if it's not shaping up and we're not it's not coming out to what it is that we want it to be. We can change that, to decide something different, to see something else for ourselves. And I led myself to a certain point where I'm feeling better. And so now I want to come back. And so these Harriet Tubman meditations that I'm working on, you see this example of, I'm not quite finished with it yet, but that's an example of the things that I'm talking about, doing how to, practically use these in our lives to feel better. These are the types of things that I'm doing. So thank you for joining me. I really hope that you got something from this, that you enjoyed it, that you really understand where I'm coming from. This is really the tip of the iceberg. There's more, but wait, there's more. And even in the freedom, courage, and leadership, I didn't go very deep. This is really an introduction. So thank you. Please hit me up on the other social medias. I will be, doing some things through Etsy, but right now I just want to get this word out there. Thank you for listening.